there, I'm Lisa Morell, founder of Equine Alchemy and Metasystem Consulting Group, and welcome to the first video in your series of videos that accompanies your personal leadership profile assessment, which is going to tell you about your transformation readiness. Now, one of the reasons why this particular transformation system, I feel it is a system because there's so many things involved with it, one of the reasons why it's unique is because of something called shadow wisdom. If you'll remember in your assessment, there was a whole aspect that might have seemed strange to you called shadow wisdom. Let me tell you about what that is. I learned about it through working with the horses, in that these deeply hidden aspects of ourselves, shadow, have some really important information for us, wisdom. So shadow wisdom, I feel, is part of any transformation because it is going deep down inside and creating this mind-body state that will enable you to live your life from a completely and more integrated perspective. So let's take a look at this and what these hidden aspects of ourselves might look like in each one of the leadership profiles. Okay? Now, the first one that I want to talk about is the shadow wisdom in the directive and the informative profile. And you'll see me refer to these cards because I made personal leadership cards that have all of the information on them that you had in your assessment. And it really is a coaching system in and of itself. And I'll tell you where you can get those at the end of this. So when you see me holding up the card, you'll know that I'm using these personal profile cards. For the directive and the information-based profile, the shadow wisdom is vulnerability. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what vulnerability is. Vulnerability feels like fear, but it's on the inside. Fear, as we all know, is a very important emotion that gives us information that we should pay attention to something, that we need to move to safety, that we are at risk in some way. Well, vulnerability feels just like that, but there's nothing in our immediate environment that can be of any kind of a threat. And I learned about vulnerability through working with the horses. Because working with the horses requires us to be in a very safe environment. And yet, if we're still feeling afraid, there's some kind of vulnerability involved. And for the directive leader, who is as it says, a very thorough and painstaking tactician who really pays attention to detail, they can be very vulnerable when they don't have all of the facts. You who are out there that are of the directive type. So your relationship with not having the facts or not having the answers is vulnerability. So you are vulnerable when you don't feel like you have everything that you need. So as a way of you preparing yourself for transformation in your life and in your business, knowing that when you feel that thing that feels like fear, it may very well be that something is just uncomfortable for you. Because the message behind vulnerability is that something hidden is about to be revealed. And you can bet that whatever that is, it's going to interrupt your status quo of how you feel about things and just the way you operate in your life. And after all, transformation is about changing the way that we think about things, changing our interface with life. So vulnerability is definitely one of those things that's going to be able to make a big impact on you if you develop a different relationship with not knowing or being vulnerable. The same for the information-based leader. Now, the information-based leader, for those of you who are out there, are people who like to be in control. You really do not like to delegate to anyone else because you know that you can do it very well yourself. Well, for you, vulnerability is also very important shadow wisdom, but almost in a different way. Yes, like the directive-based leader, you are concerned about not having the answer, but still it's more about control than it is the answer. And also something that very much differentiates the shadow wisdom from the information to the directive leader is the fact that for the information-based profile, what happens is if you feel like you don't have control, it will often escalate into anger. And we all know that we don't really understand anger, and most of us don't know how to manage it. But anger is an important emotion like any of these others that we're speaking about. The message behind anger is that your boundaries have been crossed in some way. So you need to look and see what boundary needs to be reinstated or what needs to be protected. For example, if someone comes into your space, your office, your home, and begins to tell you what's wrong with what it is you're doing, then you may react, if you are an information-based profile, from a place of attack, of anger. And if we look at that message behind that emotion, right, the shadow wisdom, because anger is often hidden or not considered something that's okay, and we can see that your boundary of being protected in your own space has been crossed. Now, we're going to do a whole other thing on boundaries and how we can protect them, what they are for us, and how they enter into our own personal leadership and definitely into our own transformation readiness in another video. But for now, just know for you information and directive-based profiles that you need to look carefully at your relationship with vulnerability, of not knowing, of not being in control, and how that can escalate into anger for you information people, and what you can do differently about that. Now let's go to participative profile, okay? And I love these cards because my daughter did the graphics for these, and of course I'm very proud of them. So I'll be referring to this. Now we all know that the participative leader or personal leadership style is the people person. Those are the ones that we all love, we love to go out with, we love to have a nice time with, and they're really fun to be around. Well, there's shadow wisdom. They have some just as well as the others, as you know. Some people who are, those of you who are participative profiles out there, you know that one of the things you need to look out for is paying attention to yourself and taking care of yourself instead of focusing everything on the outside, right? So for you, your shadow wisdom is about sadness, anger as well, and frustration. So let me talk about this a little bit. Sadness, another one of the emotions that is part of that shadow wisdom, because sadness really isn't often widely accepted, and there's not a lot of understanding about why we do have sadness. So let's talk about what it is, the messages behind sadness. The messages behind sadness are that there is something for you to release that's in your own best interest. So that could be a behavior, it could be a way of seeing things, it could be assumptions. For the participative profile, it's about letting go or releasing your dependence on others for your well-being. And as a result of letting go of something that is in our own best interest, we clear the way, we clear out blocks so that we can move forward. In other words, transform ourselves without having that block always in the way that keeps getting in our way. And then it's about anger as well, because we focus, those of us who are participative profiles, we focus so much on the other person that we often let other people into our space, our boundaries. We don't take care of ourselves. So that's one reason why we can get angry about it. I mean, think about it the last time that you were angry. I mean, somebody must have said, oh, don't mind. She won't mind if I cancel dinner because I have to go do this other thing. Well, you certainly said to them, oh, that's all right, no worries. But what were you really feeling inside? So all of this anger really, it doesn't go away. We just tend to push it down further. And we cannot transform ourselves through without clearing all of this emotional blocks, which are energetic blocks, out of the way. And I call it psychic toxic waste when we don't actually own our emotions and process them, because they're still there, they don't go away. So for the participative leader and profile, recognizing when you feel angry and letting it be okay for yourself and asking yourself what boundary needs to be restored or what needs to be protected from me is very important. And then they also need to manage their frustration. Frustration is something that's saying what you're doing, very simply put, is not working. So the questions you need to ask yourself is, what is the block? Who can I ask for help? And this is one of those things that those people who are participative profiles aren't very good at, asking for help, because you want to not infringe upon anyone else. You don't want to bother anyone with part of your needs. Your needs are not as important as others' needs. So you need to manage this frustration by understanding that you can ask for help. You can do something differently. You can move to a different place in your life and in your relationships and in your work through acknowledging your feelings. And here, this shadow wisdom being sadness, anger, and frustration. So embrace your sadness, understand your anger, and then learn to manage your frustration. And then finally, we have the creative leader. Now, these creative leaders are kind of all over the place if you let them be, but their ideas are so fast coming that of course we need those people in our society. The shadow wisdom for them is about frustration. It's very important to understand when things don't move exactly as you would like them to, that it means the same thing, the same message is there for you as for the participative profile, in that what you're doing is not working. Who can you ask for help? And what could you be doing differently? Well, what we creative people need to tend to do is just go on to a different project. Just forget about it. And that's why we end up with so many non-finished projects. So it's important for us to understand that if we are frustrated with something, there's something we can actually do. There is another choice rather than just abandoning what we're doing and going on to a different project. We can ask other people, we can understand, we can look more closely at what the block is, and we can begin to understand that there's a different way of being. And a couple of different ways of being are in the areas of boundaries, like I said before, boundaries for those participative people, but the boundaries for the creative profile. Those boundaries are more about the space, because we're all over the place, we don't need anything, we don't have to be in one place in particular. But if we could practice some putting boundaries around our projects, if we could practice grounding ourselves, practice focusing ourselves, it would allow us to go deeper into that shadow wisdom of frustration and move through that so that we can begin to complete more projects than we began. Shadow wisdom, it's a very important part of leading an integrated, full life with the mind-body state. And as I said, shadow, because it is usually unconscious, and part of what we need to do in order to transform ourselves and our lives and our businesses is to begin to delve deeply into those unconscious aspects of ourselves that hold great wisdom for us. And as we have heard today and seen in your assessment, for the directive, we need to learn how to embrace vulnerability. For those information profiles, you as well need to embrace vulnerability. And noticing and managing your anger around this is something very important for you to do to create that mind-body state. The participative people, those people out there, remember, know and take care of yourself through feeling your emotions, through allowing yourself to embrace your sadness, to understand your anger, and to really manage the frustration that you may feel because you aren't sure that you can ask for help or that your needs are important enough. And then for those of us who are creators, keep creating. Definitely keep creating. However, through putting boundaries around your space, having more structure, having more grounding, having more focus, will allow you to move through your frustration and stay with projects and creative efforts so that you will be able to finish them and bring them to completion, which for someone who's a creator like myself has a lot of juice in it. So it's not just all about the creativity. I'm learning that finishing these projects has an amazing amount of positive energy for me. So I would encourage you to do so. Well, that's it. This is the end of your first video in the series of videos that go along with your personal leadership assessment so that you can find out your transformation readiness. Now, in terms of the personal leadership cards that I was talking about, you can go to my website, www.equinealchemy.com, and you will /cards. equinealchemy.com/cards, and you'll be able to get these cards. And I guess that's about it. I hope that you take this information, you use it, you find it, that it's valuable, and that next time you'll be able to go to the next step of transformation. It'll be here next week, and it's going to be all about congruence. Developing congruence, a mind-body state, so that you can really move your transformation forward. Thanks for everything. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.